The Crooked Epic. 1. Inn. 1. The Inn of Maniacal Madness. 3. Ted. The Lake. 3A. 3. Staring along the shoreline across the lake and into the forest on the opposite side beneath the sky, Ted noticed something unexpected. The shapes of two young children appeared to the south, at an angle where the bay curved around a corner where he knew there was an obstruction which Benjamin and Gregory could not see around. Purely without any effort, Ted calmly watched the two kids walk out of woods he had never been through, and he took a knee to keep his fishing line steady and high while he shaded his eyes from glaring sunlight with his left hand over his eyebrows. The two figures moved out from the woods toward the shoreline, and one of them appeared to have a fishing pole in his hand. They were 500 feet away or more and somewhat indistinct at their heights and distance, but he assumed that they were at the lake to fish like him. It occurred to him that he should know their identities from his familiarity with the neighborhoods around the lake. Still, Ted ignored the consideration and looked back to his line, which sat idle without even a nibble on his worm. Benjamin's line was retreating to the shore, and Gregory stood up to reel back his bait. Alex was moving further up the shoreline north, and Ted watched them intently to see if they were getting the competitive spirit for the sport. They all seemed not to have seen the kids to the south and had not caught anything either. Their overall demeanor was tranquil, and Ted felt an obtrusive exclusivity to his view. Looking back at the two kids down to the south end of the lake, Ted winced into the sun to confirm the shapes were still there. At first, he could not see them in the sharp light, but saw them moving together further south. The one who had not held a fishing pole at first now commanded a big stick or branch, pushing the other one down with it. The unused fishing pole was nowhere to be seen, and the scene had gone from fishing in tranquility to attack and violence as the one with the big stick kept pushing the other one down in the mud. It was confusing, and Ted felt surprised yet transfixed in his instinctive disdain. His initial instinct was to begin reeling in his line a little faster than expected and anxiously accelerating. When he looked back across the lake at the children, he watched as the one on the ground began flailing his arms in panic, pushing and grabbing the stick away from his neck. Alex and everyone with him were oblivious, but Ted reeled in as fast as he could and started shouting, "Hey!" The naive snickers of Gregory and Jacob only caused his frustration, yet he was determined as he dropped his reeled rod onto the ground and started bushwhacking through the forest toward the south. Is this real? Ted thought to himself. That boy looks exactly like me. Why are they fighting? Ted's last sight of the two fighting children was the one with the stick beginning to jab down at the other kid's head, neck, ears, and face. The torment inflicted was disturbing and scary to Ted as he started running, and he felt as an unsuspected surge of anger rush over him. Thoughts of security and safety were abandoned while his brother and friends only bickered behind and laughed at him strangely with unscrupulous scrutiny. Imminent danger had presented itself with the two kids, and as Ted approached the last 150 feet to them, the bushes around him were thickening and he began to lose breath. Finally, he pushed out of the edge of the woods into the muddy, shallow water around the shoreline and stood almost to his knees in cold water. The boy with the stick pushed the other one down into the water, drowning him. When the splashing stopped, Ted was within proximity to the scene, close enough to manage an identifying look at the face of the boy on the shoreline, and in his eyes, nose, and cheek, what Ted saw was a detailed, exact mirrored image of himself. Fear shook Ted, and frigid water made him tremble as sweat and water uncomfortably trickled down his forehead. He screamed in anguish and fell back into the lake. The boy on the edge let out a hideous, cackling laugh, which reminded Ted of his own sinister, mad version. He charged Ted before he threw the stick at him. The spinning, twirling, bloodied branch landed close enough to Ted's right ear to slightly abrase and cut it, even as he tried to skillfully dodge. Still on his back, Ted saw the boy's menacing grimace as he turned and walked back into the dark forest. Turning over and splashing muddy water into his mouth and nose, Ted began running back toward the shoreline and friends. Stampeding through the woods and bushes, he continued shouting for Alex and started to sob when he saw them closing in on him. Exhausted and scared, Ted collapsed on his knees and pointed back behind. "Did you see that?" Jacob came running behind Alex, who grabbed Ted's shoulder and helped him up. Jacob had seen them, and so had Alex. Gregory and Benjamin were far behind on the trail. Alex leaned over to look Ted in the eyes and tried to comfort him in his uncontrollable desperation. "Are you okay? Did that kid hit you?" "Yeah, he threw the stick at me. Did you see it?" "Jacob, did you see what that boy looked like?" Jacob was pale with shock and stammered the answer. "Yeah, Al, he looked just like Teddy. That was so weird. I don't even know how to explain it." "Did you see the boy drowning?" Stuttering while he asked them, Ted was completely astonished. "Is he dead?" Alex ignored Ted's question at first. "Jacob, did you see anyone else or only that boy you threw the stick?" Jacob shook his head and squinted his eyes. No, all I saw was the crazy kid trying to hit Teddy." Gregory walked through the woods toward them with Benjamin. "What's going on?" Suddenly, the forest appeared to begin to shatter into millions of pieces. Vast darkness engulfed them, and sunlight was drained from the canopy above. The roaring sound was loud and breathtaking, and until the squeaking sounds of the bats flying around them was audible through the crashing of leaves and wings, the boys could not determine the source of the clamorous cacophony. They were crashing in an abominable bawling swarm through the woods to the south, emanating from somewhere southeast of them, crossing diagonally to the site of the inexplicable assault. Gregory, Benjamin, Jacobs scrambled backward as Alex covered his head from the squall of blackness.